Hello, anybody home? Welcome to Tuesday and welcome to Heart and Mind. I'm Dr. Dina McMillan and I am so glad to be here today. Why? Because I think this is an especially important episode. So much so that I dressed to match the title page and everything. We're going to be talking about emotional saboteurs. The people we love who may still be holding us back. This is something you really need to think about. So I'm hoping that you will stay with me and watch this episode. And please do something else. Share this information with your friends. A lot of people need this information, especially as we move into the holidays, as we move into the new year. That's one of the reasons I selected this topic. During the holidays, we spend time with family. During the holidays, people ask us, so what are you up to? What are you doing? So what are your plans for next year? What are your plans for the next 5 years? What do you tell them? Do you tell them? So every Tuesday, we have something here that is not discussed anywhere else, and that you can take and use right away to improve your life, whether it's building better relationships, whether it's protecting yourself from people who would harm you or your loved ones. It's all here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, we are live on X, on my feed, on Dr. Naomi Wolf's feed. We're also on Facebook on the Daily Clout page. We're live on Daily Clout, Rumble, and Getter. But if you're not watching this live, you can't make it 1 week, that's okay. You can still go to Rumble, Daily Clout, and you can also go to YouTube and find all of the episodes of Heart and Mind. I also tend to upload each episode on my X page, which is at Dr. Dina 1. So that you can easily find all the information you need when you need it. Sometimes we need a little reminder. Even if we find something interesting, here's a hint as a social psychologist. Most of us don't learn things if we hear them only once, even if it's fascinating. We need to have it in different contexts. We need to have it expressed in slightly different ways before it fully embeds in our minds. That's another reason I use slides. I put a lot of time into putting slides together. A lot of people have great shows with no graphics. They just sit and talk to the camera. I considered doing that, but a lot of the information I'm giving you is going to be unique. It's going to be new. And studies have found you have a much higher probability of remembering the information if it has a relevant graphic associated with it, whether it's something you read or something you hear. So I put little pictures there to make it easier to remember. Now, me being a social psychologist is crucial. It's why what I do comes from a totally different approach. We study the brain. We study power dynamics. We look at how people learn, how they're influenced and persuaded, how they're manipulated and coerced, indoctrinated, and even brainwashed. And it's why I always have a picture of an evil scientist, because we don't just study this. Social psychologists also do experiments where we try to figure out how we can change someone's beliefs and behaviors without alerting them that it's an outside force that changed their mind. That is really kind of scary, creepy, if you ask me. But I'm on the side of the angels. I'm showing you the strings of manipulation so you can cut them at will. Now, speaking of strings of manipulation and things you need to know, please, Christmas is coming. This is a great Christmas present for everybody who wants to stay on top of the information that is influencing our lives. And that is the Pfizer papers. Dr. Naomi Wolf, Amy Kelly, they put years into actually decoding the Pfizer papers and taking out the crucial information that Pfizer went to court to try to hide from the public for 75 years. Court said no. But people still didn't know how to interpret the information, so they did it for us. So this is something anybody can understand, and it shows you what was going on. We're still finding out. We're still finding out how much crucial information about the harms of the vaccine were hidden from us. How much is still being hidden. The fact that the COVID vaccine is still being offered is a travesty. And if you read this, you will find out why. And it's also important for you to get your own copy, because every time you buy a copy, you are supporting Daily Clout's work to bring historic information, crucial information to you and to the public. So this is something you want to get. Now, let's look at what we're talking about today. Emotional saboteurs, the people we love who hold us back. Now, this is a topic that I wanted to bring to you because if you watch this show on a regular basis, you know that I had an episode, when I did the episode on Charlie Kirk, I had a member of my own family go on my Facebook page and try to keep people who said they were interested in the show from watching. Said terrible things about Charlie Kirk, all those labels that he was given from people who never even listened to what he said, or they'd only heard edited, doctored snippets of what he said. So she was so upset that I was encouraging people to honor his life that she went online and tried to get them to stop, to not watch me and not to listen. You may have family members that are like that too, that are trying to sabotage you. Now that was pretty overt. Sometimes it's a little bit more subtle, but it is something that you need to know. So let's get started. Let's look at how the people we love can really hold us back. What if I told you every major financial collapse has been preceded by the same 7 warning signs? Before the Great Depression, before the 1970s stagflation, before the crash of 2008. Now all 7 are flashing red again for the first time in over 15 years. American Alternative Assets just released a free report called the Bellwether Signal. It breaks down each of these signals and shows how to protect your retirement before the next wave hits. In times of uncertainty, gold has always been the ultimate safe haven. It held strong in 2008. It surged during the inflation crisis of the 1970s, and it remains one of the few assets not tied to political manipulation or a central bank policy. Find out why central banks are buying it in record amounts, and now you can too. Call 855-803-GOLD or visit cloutgold.com to get your free copy of the Bellwether Signal. That's 855-803-GOLD or cloutgold.com. Learn the signs, protect your savings, make your move while you still can. Now, we're going to be talking today about sabotage, but not the kind of sabotage from people you perceive as your enemy. This is sabotage from your nearest and dearest. And there are reasons I'm presenting this information the way I am, because I want it to really embed itself in your brain. I want you to be really careful, because one of the things that I hope is that my audience, as you learn more about how the world works, how people are influenced and persuaded, how you can become more attractive to other people, more effective in what you say, that your goals increase. But that doesn't do you any good if you're surrounded by people who are going to undermine you. So we're going to talk today about the sabotage that comes from our nearest and dearest, as I experienced. And of course, that wasn't the first time. We're going to talk about the sabotage that can occur from your nearest and dearest and how you can handle it without just eliminating that person from your life. If you watched this show before, you know that I have a tendency not to want the first and only reaction to something going wrong to be eliminate that person from my life. Not unless they're an abuser and it's dangerous for you to be around them. If they are just off or envious or don't know how to behave when you have success, there are ways you can handle it so you can still maintain a relationship with that person, but they don't get in your head, they don't get in your life, and they don't undermine you successfully. So sometimes the sabotage isn't necessarily obvious, but it can still work to trigger you. It can still undermine you. It can still keep you from reaching your goals. Now, emotional sabotage is what we're talking about today. We're not talking about somebody actually doing something to undermine you in most cases. We're talking about somebody who's using your feelings and your fears and your shared history to reduce your ambition and lower your self-confidence. Cruel, isn't it? But sometimes the people that hold us back the most are the people that are supposed to love and support us. Now, if you have a question about this, because this is really important information, if you have any questions or comments, just go to wherever you're signing it, wherever you're live streaming this, sign in, and there is a button that should allow you to make comments or ask questions, and I will try to answer them right on the air. What are the common reasons that people will sabotage you? Sometimes it's because they feel a loss of control. Perhaps they felt that they had control over what you did, and now you're acting as an independent agent, and they find that threatening. Sometimes they're afraid that if you become successful, you won't need them anymore. Sometimes it's pure envy. They don't want you to succeed because they don't want you to outdo them. And that is a very common one. Competition. When you have, especially among siblings and cousins, you often find a lot of hyper competitiveness. So somebody may try to undermine you because they're competing with you. Other times it's just any kind of change. They like the dynamics the way they are. They like the situation the way it is. They don't want anything to change. So they're going to try to discourage you from reaching a goal that's going to change the whole dynamic of the family structure or the friendship structure or even the work situation. Other times it's because they're really dependent on you. They're dependent on you being available to them whenever they need it. If you have other goals and aspirations and you start having new social networks, you may not be as available to them as you have been, and they don't want that. So they are going to try to keep you from reaching for your dreams because they want you to stay right where you are. Okay, so let's talk about some of the tools of emotional sabotage. Undermining. This is the kind of stuff where somebody says, they ask a question like, are you sure you can handle that? Or they'll bring up history. Remember that time you aimed for that goal and you fell flat on your face? And then they start laughing and going into detail, and it all starts to rise up again, and your heart starts racing and your stomach starts clenching, and you go back mentally and emotionally to that spot where you failed. This is something that is very common when people are reaching for a goal. Also, guilt tripping. Oh, you think you're too good for us now. This is another thing I experienced in my family, coming from a working class family and then earning a doctorate, a master's and a doctorate from Stanford. There were members of my family who were constantly looking to just start an argument with me because they thought I looked down on them because they didn't have the same amount of formal education. And no, I didn't. It was all in their head, but it still caused so many situations during family events. Oh, it was so painful. You could run into that as well. People think, oh, you're going to think, you think you're too good for us now if you become successful. True sabotage. This is when somebody actually does something to undermine you. And I looked on a site when I did research for this show. I looked on a site and they were talking about people who've decided to get healthy. They've gained weight or they've gotten out of shape and they're like, I'm going to really get healthy. So they find an eating plan that works with their new healthy lifestyle. They build the discipline, they start exercising, and then somebody comes along and brings their favorite fattening dish and says, oh, you're just getting too skinny too fast. Here, have this. Or they do something, I've seen it also on a more serious note with people who are trying to go on the straight and narrow. They're trying to stop drinking. They're trying to stop using pharmaceuticals. And then people bring those to an event. They bring them to their house. They tempt them with something that they know they have a weakness for because they don't really want them to succeed in changing and improving their lives. This is one of the cruelest things that people can do, but I see it all the time. Trying to use your weaknesses to make you fail. Here's another one. Oh my goodness. A lot of us are related to people who are narcissistic or histrionic. With both of those, these people are always damsels, or what do you call a guy that's always in distress? They don't have a real term for it like they do for women. But you have a situation where somebody is always causing drama. So while you're disciplining yourself to improve your life, you're taking new classes, you're putting things together, you have a schedule that you're keeping to, you're getting up early and doing something, whatever it happens to be, it gets totally thrown aside by this person's emergency. And they always have an emergency, especially if the attention turns to you. This person can be an incredibly difficult person to deal with if you are trying to improve and change your life. Here's another one. This is more subtle. I've gone through this one too. Demoralizing. Withholding praise, support, or enthusiasm. And it doesn't just have to be family. I remember when my first book was published, But He Says He Loves Me. At the time, I belonged to a domestic violence network. And for me, it was a big deal that this book was published because at the time it was published, it wasn't just published in English. It was published in Spanish as well, distributed all over the world. It was such a big deal. I go to my network meeting and they completely ignore the fact that my book was published and make a big deal out of someone else that was there who had written a few chapters on a book that they were self-publishing. They didn't even have the book written yet, but they couldn't afford for the attention to go on me and my accomplishment. I was completely ignored as though it never happened. That can be very demoralizing when you know that the people that you have come and support, if they have something going on, you make sure you attend and you're enthusiastic. Something happens for you, they pretend it didn't even happen. And sometimes it's our families who do this. Envy. So somebody who gets irritated, sad, or aggressive whenever you have some type of success, even if you don't brag about it. If you work hard to reach a goal, you have a right to feel proud of yourself. Even if you're not bragging and bringing it up all the time, you have a right to feel proud of yourself. If somebody is envious, they will do everything they can to diminish it. Some of the things we're going to talk about are other ways that this envy can show, that this diminishment and undermining can show up in your life. Here's another one, veiled aggression, where you go to something and they try to embarrass you. Putting this together, I was thinking, just with my family, I've had to deal with all of this. You bring somebody home and it's the first time they meet your family, and your family purposely does everything they can to embarrass you. That's not cute. That's not funny. Or you're going to an event. They come along to an event. I know a young woman who was involved with a guy. He didn't like for her to succeed. He felt threatened by her success. So whenever she had a social event where people were supposed to bring their spouses or romantic partners, he would come along and he would drink too much. He'd make passes at everybody. He'd make inappropriate jokes. That's veiled aggression. It's designed to humiliate or hurt you. This is another type of very powerful emotional sabotage. Now, keep in mind, you may have more methods, and I hope you actually reach out to me and say, well, you know what? Here's another type of emotional sabotage that I've had to deal with, so I can share it with everyone else. But keep in mind, most saboteurs don't only use one method. They'll use as many as they can until you get thrown off. If you stay disciplined, if you stay on your purse, they're going to keep throwing things at you. So I want to prepare you ahead of time because, of course, this being heart and mind, we're going to also talk about solutions, tools of self-protection. But I want to warn you ahead of time, as you use these, it may encourage the person who's trying to undermine you to use more than one method of trying to sabotage you. So be prepared, brace yourself. Now, here's something that I wanted to just briefly discuss with you. Why am I describing the saboteurs? Why am I putting them in categories? And there's a reason for this that you may not have thought of. If someone does something and you don't put them in a category, you may, in the back of your mind, tell yourself, they did that then, but maybe they'll get better. Maybe it won't happen again. You will not necessarily associate that behavior with that person. But I feel that part of my duty for this show is to actually help protect you. By not categorizing these people, it can leave you still surprised when they do it again. So I actually put these saboteurs into categories so that you know what to expect from that individual, so you have your guard up. So when we talk about ways to protect yourself, you will have those in hand because you know that this person has a tendency to be and we're going to describe them. So prepare yourself. Let's go. Let's look at them. First is the crabs in a bucket. My mom used to talk about this. She talked about certain groups, some of which we belong to, where like crabs in a bucket, she said you never have to if you put crabs in a bucket, you don't have to put a top on it. Because whenever one crab starts to crawl out, the other crabs will pull him back down. There are some people like that. And this is the type of person that whenever they see someone trying to succeed, they will use one of these tools of sabotage, whatever they feel is most effective, to pull that person back so that they are not able to outdo the group. This person or these people have decided everybody has to stay right where the group is. They're not allowed to do better. And they will, every single time, they will try to sabotage this way. They will pull you back down, or you or anyone else back down, if they think that person is actually going to grow, change, or succeed in a way the rest of the group has not. Another, the martyr or the victim, somebody that says you being successful is somehow harming them. So everything comes back to them. And basically, you see this a lot with people who are reliant on someone else. They're afraid if that person succeeds and changes and grows and develops a new network of a social network, a new network of professional contacts, that they're not going to be available for them. So they somehow find a way to word this that your success is hurting them. Sometimes you see this with spouses, because often in order to succeed professionally, you have to really put your head down and devote yourself to your work. And these people will say, it's harming our family. We'll never get our family back. We're going to end up divorced. The kids won't know you or whatever. What's the difference? Someone who's supportive says, I know you have to really focus on your work right now. Let's figure out a way we can keep the kids and that we can keep our marriage strong during this time when you have to focus. That's the difference. So the martyr victim. Dream snipers. These are the kind of people, whenever you're going for a goal, they come up with the absolute worst case scenario. Oh, you know, people who do that. It's like, let's say you win the lottery. You know, they say, I saw a show that said that most people 5 years after they won the lottery, they're broke. I remember when I was aiming for my education, and my mother used to constantly remind me how many people with PhDs ended up working in the post office. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? And at the same time, saying how important education was. Sometimes these people, they will be so negative. Now, the difference between realism and negativity, realism says this could be something that you're going to have to deal with, and then follows that with, hey, let's look at some solutions in case that occurs. That's realism. Negativity is, oh, you know, people like that shortens their life expectancy. Oh, it's going, all you're going to do is pay taxes. That kind of person. All they want to do is just snipe at it so that, ooh, and if you tell them they're negative, I'm not negative, I'm just being realistic. No. Emotional vampires. Again, this is the person who floods your life with drama, trying to derail you as you build the discipline and the focus to reach your goals. So they are constantly making choices that invite terrible drama into their lives and then expect you to rescue them. And of course, if they're a family member, you may have other family members who tell you, of course you have to drop everything and rescue that person. It's your duty as a member of the family. You know, it's interesting because as an American, I meet, and as somebody who's lived in 5 countries, I meet a lot of people from ethnic groups where you look at them and think, oh, it's so nice that they're so family oriented. But there can be a negative side of that as well. Often they are expected to sacrifice for other people in the family's bad choices. You know, when I was in Australia, I was teaching financial literacy. And we actually had to do a separate financial literacy course for some of the people from like the Pacific Islands, some of the Middle Eastern people. Why? Because if you had people, and the Aboriginal people as well, we were teaching people how to be responsible, make good financial choices, start saving, start investing. And when it happened, these people who had family members who never saved anything, spent everything they had, drank it up, gambled it, threw it away, bought expensive stuff they couldn't afford. These people viewed those responsible family members as their ATM. So So many of them got derailed. We had to come up with something separate because so many of them got derailed because by having financial responsibility, being conscious of their spending and making good choices was not helping them because they were not able to see the benefits of that because their family would take it. So having emotional or financial vampires in your family can be incredibly difficult. Oh, by the way, some of the tools we're going to talk about during this show are some of the things I shared with them. Basically, just give you a preview. We found ways for them to set up accounts that they did not inform their family that they had. Because if they did, they would not be allowed to keep it. So while you might say, oh, it's a shame to have to keep secrets from people, some people don't need to know your business, okay? If they're going to try to use guilt, use emotional blackmail to harm you, you have a right to keep things not secret, but private, okay? And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Then we have the fake cheerleaders. God, dealt with this one too. People who claim they're so proud of you, but they're constantly digging at you, undermining you, comparing you to other people. You get an accomplishment like you publish a book that's international. Oh, well, you know, one of the guys that you went to grad school with, his book was published 2 years ago, and it's on the New York Times bestsellers list. Okay, that's really helpful. You know those kind of people? They always find a way to compare you to someone else. You don't know what else is going on in that person's life. Instead of encouraging you and in any way helping you to succeed further, all they do is undermine you. And if you say something, they're like, but I just told you how proud I am. I just told you, I was telling somebody today about how well you're doing. Yeah. You got to be careful of these people because it can be very hurtful and they will try to pretend you don't have a right to say something about it. Legacy saboteurs. Oh, I am visualizing someone right now that I worked with when I was in Australia. Such a smart guy. Invented something that he still needs to get out there. But when he talked about this invention, and he had it, I wish I knew Elon Musk. I'd send him to Elon. I'm serious. When he invented this thing, which worked, which he could back up with blueprints and everything else, his father insisted he would never be allowed to succeed. People like us don't do things like that. And a lot of you, if you are from the South, if you are from a working class family, if you are an ethnic minority in the United States, a lot of you come from families that say success isn't for people like us. And in fact, one of the reasons that I detest critical race theory is because it tries to convince all Black kids that they can never really be accepted, can never really succeed. It is just horrible. It's legacy sabotage is what it is. It's saying people like us never get there. And it's just not true. Then you have the rescuer. Here's another problem. Think Whitney Houston, okay? Oh, she was my favorite singer. However, as her career took off, she was hiring all of her relatives, and they were all leading her astray. All of the things that we've talked about previously, the emotional sabotage methods, hire family and see how much those come in. Even when you look at the film, The Bodyguard, you saw an example of that that's very realistic. Her sister was so envious of her success that she actually tried to kill her. Spoiler alert, but of course that movie came out, 31 years ago? If you haven't watched it by now, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I ruined it for you. But Often you have this, and I've had friends do this as well. Once I came up with my program, Unmasking the Abuser, because it still remains the only domestic violence prevention program in the world that actually works. And it's relevant and works from age 13 and above. Once I came up with this, I published the book. It was published in 14 countries in different languages. I had a lot of my friends who wanted to work with me. One of them, a close friend, I said, okay, let's see. And we designed a little project, and I brought her aboard to work on the project. It was such a terrible idea because even though it was my material, it was my field of expertise, she tried to take over. So I was like, no. Do not hire friends and family if you are doing something that's successful, unless you have a super competent friend or super competent family and there is some distance you can keep from them. It is really risky, because if you have professional disagreements, it can ruin your personal relationship, and that's not something you want. Also, you'll be inclined to hire someone who's underqualified because you care about them and because you want to keep the peace at Sunday dinner when your mom says, well, you're doing so well, you should hire your brother. Yeah, that can be a real problem. Now, what happens if you have these saboteurs in your life? What do they do to you? What is the effect of having somebody undermining you, criticizing you, embarrassing you in front of other people, including professional contacts? What happens? It's going to increase your self-doubt. Now, I don't care how competent you are. There are going to be times, especially during the witching hour around 3 a.m., that you're going to say, can I really do this? Is this really going to work? That's going to get bigger and stronger if you also have people that are close to you who know you well, who've known you for a long time, who are saying the same thing. Oh, you really can't do this. Whatever category of saboteur that they are, sometimes these things can strike home. It can make you give up before the goal is reached. That's what happened with the young man I told you about, who invented something for car engines that is brilliant and still needed. He went on, and I mean, he's doing well for himself in his professional career, but he could be doing brilliantly if he brought that to market. And I told him at the time, you have to keep going till you get to yes. You cannot let any no you hear keep you back. And the only reason he heard no was because of the historical context. It had nothing to do with it not working and not being affected and not being needed. But on one hand, he had, a family member in his ear saying success like that isn't for people like us. This family member is probably way more comfortable with him because he stayed within the limitations that this family member felt was adequate for their family. He didn't try to reach higher. It can keep you from giving up before you reach the goal. If by any chance he sees this, I hope he takes it to heart and says, you know what, I'm going to try again. Because as I said, it's still needed. They can increase your missed opportunities. Sometimes, especially the high drama people. You could have an opportunity to network at something, and then somebody makes a choice, does something, gets drunk, high, causes a scene, breaks up with somebody, makes some big drama situation, and you miss out on crucial opportunities at a crucial time. It is not uncommon for this to happen. This is one of the things that happens when you're sabotaged. They can slow your progress. I would say if you continue to spend time around saboteurs, They will slow your progress whether you know it or not. Because every moment you're spending with them, you're not spending with someone who could actually speed your progress. So that's one of the reasons their presence is so dangerous. And if there's somebody that you're close to emotionally, you could start adapting what you say and do to get their approval. Their approval could become even more important. It's a type of trauma bond that you'll develop with your saboteur, where you want them to improve. Is this good enough that they stop comparing me to my cousin, that they stop comparing me to that guy I went to school with, that they stop comparing me to my sibling? Is this good enough that I actually get a smile and recognition instead of, oh, you should have done this by now? You can become over reliant on their approval, and that will really hold you back. They can also confuse you. You're out with other people and they're saying, wow, what you're doing is fantastic. Look at this. Isn't this great? And then you're around your nearest and dearest, and they treat you like either what you did is unremarkable, or that maybe they do the thing where they just don't remark on it at all. They just ignore your success and pretend it didn't happen, and instead focus all their attention on somebody else in the family who hasn't done anything near as good as you have. It will make you confused, because then again, in the witching hour, you'll be asking yourself, is what I did really that remarkable? Is what I'm doing really possible for somebody like me? They're going to confuse you. Emotional exhaustion. And I would argue this is going to happen even if you use the protective tools we're going to talk about in a minute. Because if you're surrounded by saboteurs, having to keep your guard up around them all the time is so tiring. Having to keep quiet about what you're doing, having to be so careful about what you say, it's like walking through a minefield, an emotional minefield, every time you're around people that you love, that you care about, that you want to support you. It is exhausting. So I just want you to be prepared. It's going to cost you if you're around saboteurs. And if you don't get away from them and you allow them to derail your success, it's very possible you're going to end up bitter and resentful. But again, they cannot derail you unless you allow them to. Everything we're talking about here is about how you can keep them from being successful in knocking you off your perch. Now, why is this so important? We're about to go into Christmas holidays. And it's not just Christmas Day or even Christmas Eve. Lots of parties. Maybe the people that are causing you the most distress, your saboteurs or your colleagues at work. Most people have some kind of holiday parties now, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Hanukkah. You've got some kind of get-togethers where it's the end of the year, it's the end of the financial year, people are kind of relaxed, wanting to let go. So you're going to be spending time around a wider range of people than you do normally, and it's not only going to be in a work environment. So I want you to brace yourself. I want you to be ready. I want you to be prepared, because I want people to write me next year and say, I'm doing better than I ever have. One of the things I didn't put here that I probably should have, while you have some time off over the holidays, at the very least, watch Carol Dweck's videos, her TED Talk, her YouTube videos on the growth mindset. Because the growth mindset, when it comes down to it, is just a decision. It's just you saying, I don't care how tough things get, I'm going to get to the other side. If it can be done, I'm going to learn how to do it. If I make mistakes, I'm going to pick myself up, dust myself off, and keep going. I'm going to look at this as a challenge because I can do this. And the more I do this, the smarter I'm going to get. The more parts of my brain that are going to be energized. I want you to embrace the growth mindset over the holidays. So if you're having to deal with saboteurs, you have ammunition to fight against them. And let's talk about some more of that ammunition. Let's talk about some practical strategies for protecting yourself and your goals from saboteurs. First up, do not share, okay? One of the things, you have to look at your dreams as being something so precious and fragile. And imagine it's like a ball of light. And everybody you tell about it gets to hold it for a second. Some people, if they're really behind you and supportive and loving and maybe knowledgeable, when they hold it, it actually glows brighter. Other people, you hand it to them and it starts to diminish and it starts to dull. Do not share your goals and dreams with people who are envious or fit in any of the categories that we talked about. In the past, have they tried to embarrass you? In the past, have they tried to undermine you? Are they erratic in their support, where sometimes they're great and other times they're awful? Any questions in your mind, keep it to yourself. Tell them after the contract is signed. Tell them after you've received the job. Tell them after everything has happened. You don't want to be secretive, but you want to keep your dreams and goals private from anyone who has ever undermined you. I'm sorry, but this is what you need to do. And stop seeking validation from people who can't or won't give it. There's a part of us who still want our family to approve of us, that still want our parents to approve of us. And sometimes it can get us into situations where we will adapt what we aim for and adapt what we work for and adapt what we accept because we want their seal of approval. Don't do that. If they can't or won't give you validation for the goals and dreams you're thinking of now, the ones that made you watch this show, don't share it with them. Don't seek validation from them. Even after you get it, if they aren't impressed, that's their problem, okay? Now, you're going to have to start setting firm boundaries. This is hard for a lot of us, especially if you're female. Women tend to tell each other everything and talk about everything. This is another reason I keep saying minimize the alcohol when you get together with people where you've had troubled dynamics in the past. It can be hard to do even just by relaxing. I don't drink, and I know that sometimes when I get relaxed, I'll say something and think later, oh, I shouldn't have told them that. You're going to have to be strong now. You're going to have to be disciplined. Set firm boundaries. Don't tell them. And if you are around people who are negative, limit the amount of time you spend with them. Not only limit sharing your new goals and dreams, just don't spend time with them at all. When they've done studies on the impact of a negative person on a team, they have found that you put one negative person on a team, it's like putting a spoiled apple in a barrel of apples. The productivity diminishes, the hope about the project diminishes, the quality of the work diminishes. The same thing happens in a friendship group or a family. If you have somebody who's really negative, who always sees the dark side, who always expects failure, who always talks about how bad things are, you don't need them raining on your parade. Limit the amount of time you spend with them. And under no circumstances do you tell them about your goals and your dreams. And in fact, in this case, even if you have the contract, even if you started the new job, you still might want to keep it to yourself because you don't want their opinion on it. Think of negativity like a smell. You know how smell is particulate? Did you know that? When you smell something, you're actually taking in microscopic pieces of whatever it is you're smelling. So it's actually going into your body. Think of negativity the same way. When you're around negativity, you're taking that in, and you don't want that on your new life. All of today is about making sure 2026 is your best year ever. I know I fully intended to be my best year ever, and I'm doing everything I can to make that happen. So there are a lot of things I'm leaving behind, and we're going to talk about it over the next couple of weeks. Some of the most effective ways to leave anything you don't want in 2025 so you don't take it into 2026. But here's one way to do it. Just stay away from negative people. And don't feel obligated just because someone's related to you, just because you love them. They don't have to be included in your goals. Mistakes will be too expensive. So this is again about somebody saying, oh, when you get that job, can you hire me? And you're like, no. Sorry, the new company has a policy against that. There are a lot of people who will try to grab on to your success. The mistakes are too expensive because it won't just impact you professionally, it will impact you personally. So keep family and business separate. Whatever your goals are, keep outsiders on the outside. I know it sounds cold. I know it sounds cruel, but I don't want you to have to contact me about all of your issues because you ignored this advice and did it anyway. Okay? Also, number 5, seek support from outside of your current circle. There are times when it's great to be around people who've known you since childhood. And there are times when it's great to be around people who have known you since last week, who take you as they find you, who don't know your history, who don't know that you went through a phase, who don't know all of your mistakes and keep reminding you on a regular basis. If you are making a new goal, whether it's personal or professional, go online. You don't even have to stay online. There are so many ways, Meetup. There are all these apps now where you can, just go to museums with people, find new ways to do things, find an interest, take a class, and meet new people. Do not rely only on your existing social circle if you're trying to do something new and better, because even if they think they love you, often people want us to stay exactly where we are because it's comfortable for them. So find a new circle. And these new people may have suggestions, they may have opportunities that you would never get just staying with what you know. Number 6, identify the saboteurs. I want you to bookmark this episode, and I want you to go back over it. And I want you to look at the different categories and saboteurs and go through the people you know and identify any saboteurs in your social circle, in your work life. Identify them. It doesn't mean you reject them. It just means you know what you're dealing with, so you know where you need to keep your guard up. Even if you don't, I wouldn't even suggest openly naming and shaming them. I'm just saying, just keep your guard up. 7, don't let guilt, Personal history or group membership limit you. Don't let people tell you people like us don't do this. I don't care what group you belong to. You can be the first to do something new. I've never let it stop me. I've been the first to do this and the first to do that and the first to do that. Be the same way. And don't let guilt at everybody else like you not succeeding keep you from going as far as you can go. You can't help anybody if you stay where you are. And get a journal and start tracking your progress privately to reduce the pressure. As you go through, don't share this with everybody. Just keep track of how you're doing, where you need to grow, what you might want to do. Now, if you have people in your life that are genuine support, not fake support, the fake cheerleaders we talked about who use the right words sometimes, but are also undermining. If you have real support, you might discuss some of the things that you're going through with these other people if they have actual useful suggestions for you. But be very careful again. Be careful where you share your dreams. Don't do it easily or lightly. And here's a practical rule. Let's say you talk something over with someone and they say, well, you know, you need to do this, or you haven't thought about that. Don't just immediately react. Give yourself 24 hours to actually consider what was said. Is it valid? Is it something you need to do? Is it something you need to look up? Is it something you need to try? Is it something you need to stop doing? Give yourself 24 hours. Any accusations, any suggestions, give yourself a whole day to consider them. Because again, I have said this over and over again, do not make serious choices in heightened circumstances. If you have an emotional or primal reaction, primal is desire, anger, competition, whatever, fear. If you have a strong reaction to something, that means you are too involved to make a realistic choice, to make a rational choice. Give yourself a day to think it through. Have firm boundaries. When you don't want to talk about something and somebody keeps bringing it up, keep telling them, I'm not willing to discuss it. Rinse and repeat as often as needed. If they try to pressure you, you need to tell me, I'm not willing to discuss it. I'm not willing to talk about it. I'm not willing to discuss it. Walk away if you need to. Keep telling them no. Have firm boundaries. And keep track. If you're dealing with someone who is sabotaging you, write it down. That same journal where you're keeping track of your progress, or a different journal if you want to, write down the specifics about the sabotage, the time, the date, what was said. Then later on, if you confront the person, if you feel it's appropriate to confront the person, you will have actual evidence to support what you're saying. You're not just making it up. You're not just being too sensitive. You can actually tell them, over the last month, here are the 6 times we've gotten together with the rest of the family, and you have made negative comments about me. You said this on this date. You said that on that date. Have the evidence right in your hand. Keep track. Any questions or comments? This is an important one, so I hope you watch it more than once, because I do not want you to go into the holidays just raw and vulnerable. I want you to be strong. Questions or comments, you can always contact me on X, or you can contact me through my company, Ethical Strategic Solutions. Now, what I do transformative education and training. You will find it is like nothing else. You will actually have measurable differences in the behaviors that we discuss, unlike other things where people take it, they tick a box, said, yes, I took it, and you don't see any difference. Contact me now. It's just ethicalstrategic.com. How simple is that? And keep in mind, In the new year, we're going to have classes. So I'm going to have 2 levels of classes. I'm going to have large classes where it's just a few dollars, and we will go in depth on any aspect of what we discuss, or even something we haven't discussed that you're interested in. And I will also have small classes that are just a little bit more, still budget friendly, where each person will get one-on-one time with me. So I hope you will participate. And thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you learned something great. I hope you'll keep yourself safe, and I hope you'll stay in touch. Remember my promise, no more boring Tuesdays. I'll see you next week.